The man discovered a transparent barrier that had suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the middle of the desert. Strangely, nothing could pass through it, not even bullets could penetrate the invisible wall. Peering inside, the man saw a peaceful family living there, dressed in 19th century clothing, but the year was already 2001. Even more bizarre, while people outside the barrier could clearly see in, those inside couldn't see out. The sudden appearance of this mysterious structure immediately drew the military's attention. They sealed off the entire area and called in Colonel Skok by helicopter. Staring at the unbelievable sight before him, Skok was left speechless. He had never seen anything this strange in his entire life. On the other side of the barrier, lush greenery stretched as far as the eye could see, while outside was nothing but endless sand, as if the interior were some hidden paradise. Unfortunately, the military could only watch in silence. They couldn't hear anything from inside. Skok suggested bringing in a lip-reading expert, but his superior harshly refused. The expert worked for the CIA, and he didn't want to risk losing credit for the discovery. Skok had no choice but to find another way. One day, Skok noticed a boy standing motionless near the barrier. Following the boy's gaze, he made a shocking discovery. A vehicle outside had exploded, and the thick black smoke was somehow drifting into the barrier. The boy, seeing this strange phenomenon, tried to call his family over, but they didn't hear him. The next second, the smoke was blocked out again. The boy assumed it was just his imagination, but Skok had seen it clearly, and it gave him an idea. He immediately brought in a projectile launcher loaded with ice blocks, firing them repeatedly at the barrier. Through countless trials, he realized the barrier wasn't active all the time. If they kept firing, they might hit the moment when it temporarily shut down. After extensive testing, they finally succeeded. Some ice blocks passed through. They discovered a pattern. The barrier deactivated every day at exactly 8 for just 10 seconds. Even though they'd found a way in, the military dared not enter yet. There were too many unknowns. But during his long hours of observation, Skok fell in love with the woman inside, Rebecca. She looked strikingly like his late wife. Every night he dreamed of her, and the longing grew unbearable. Finally, he asked for permission to enter, but his superior scolded him, calling him unstable, and ordered him off the site. Unwilling to give up, Skok waited for the right moment. Pretending to pack his things, he knocked out a guard just as the barrier was about to open, then sprinted toward it at full speed. By the time others realized what had happened, the barrier had already sealed shut again. Inside, Skok found that the desert had vanished. Before him stretched a vibrant landscape of greenery. Then he saw Rebecca stepping out of her house. Seeing the unfamiliar man, Rebecca curiously walked toward him. The military outside watched in tense silence, eager to see what would happen. As the two drew closer, they seemed instantly drawn to each other. Love at first sight. But just as Skok was about to speak, Rebecca's appearance twisted grotesquely. She transformed into a horrifying creature and sank her teeth into his neck. The soldiers outside panicked, opening fire, but their bullets couldn't pierce the barrier. They could only watch helplessly as Skok was torn apart by the monsters. Moments later, the farmhouse owner rushed over. Seeing Skok appear out of thin air, he seemed to understand something. Grabbing a spellbook, he performed a strange ritual right in front of the soldiers' eyes. In an instant, the massive barrier vanished from the desert. The military was stunned. What just happened? Everything felt like a dream. Only Skok, who had gone inside, could prove it was all real. Believing the phenomenon was over, the military withdrew from the site, but they couldn't have been more wrong. The barrier hadn't disappeared, it had simply reversed. Now those inside could see the soldiers outside, while the soldiers could no longer see in. The old man held a pocket watch as the boy struck the barrier with Skok's leg bone, trying to locate the moment it would open again. Once they found it, they would be able to enter the human world, and when that happened, humanity would face an unprecedented catastrophe. Too often we idealize what we don't understand, but once we risk everything to step into that seemingly perfect world, we realize too late that we've walked straight into a trap.